I want to give you a little bit of encouragement today. Back when I was in elementary school, junior high, senior high, I was always known as the artist. I was always the kid that was drawing in his notebook, and I was always the one that was called on to make the posters for the class or to, do the art project that needed done for the class. And I was always the artist. And so growing up, I knew that my lifelong ambition was to make a living doing artwork. And as a kid, I my dream, one of my dreams was to go work for a big animation company like Disney, something like that. But back in the day when I was growing up, everything was hand drawn, hand painted cartoons, and that's what I wanted to do for a living. I wanted to get into animation. I looked into going to college for graphic design, for animation, for all that kind of thing. But by the time I was a senior in high school, I didn't want to do school anymore. I didn't want to go away to college. I didn't want to, number one, spend the money. Number two, I didn't want to move away. I liked my little town. I liked where I live. I liked my friends and family. I didn't. I wasn't ready to move away, so I didn't. I didn't go to college. I don't have a college degree, but yet here I am, this many years later, um, a business owner, self-employed. So you don't necessarily have to have a college degree to do things in life. Certain things can help with a college degree, but for me, it wasn't absolutely necessary. Now, the process for me to get from high school to here had a lot of bumps and bruises and twists and turns. My very first job, while I was still in high school, very first paying job, was with Pizza Hut, and I worked as a dishwasher when I started part time, and I was at Pizza Hut for about 4 years and worked my way up to shift supervisor. And I was about 20 years old when that happened. And I was pretty proud of myself. It wasn't my passion. It wasn't artwork. It wasn't doing graphics like I knew that I had a talent for. I tried to start my own business back then when I was young. I, of course, didn't know how to run a business, start a business, do any of that kind of stuff. I started hand painting signs in my parents' garage. I started hand lettering race cars for extra money throughout the summer. And so I would pick up odd jobs now and again doing artwork and just to see if it was something that I could make a living at. As a matter of fact, when I was still in school, I I had an idea to start my own business someday in life, and I actually have a piece of notebook paper that I sketched out the logo that I would have used back then, and the business that I had picked, the business name that I had picked there when I was in junior, senior high was Blue Brush Sign Painting, because everything I did was hand painted signs back then. And I have a notebook page of that drawing, that sketch I did as a design for my dream business back then. So um, off and on, I would do odd jobs doing hand painted signs and lettering and race car graphics and those sorts of things. And I worked, other full time jobs to pay the bills. I worked at Pizza Hut, like I said, started out my first job. Then I worked with my dad for a year or so. He had gotten a contract to run the cafeteria at the Du Bois Penn State campus. So I worked there for a while with him. And then I got a job trying to sell. I thought I was going to get rich selling sweepers, vacuum cleaners, door to door. Did that for a little while. I pumped gas at a full service gas station one winter, which that was actually one of my more favorite jobs that I've ever had, to be honest with you. Yeah, about the same time that I was working that gas station attendant job, um, a position came open at Jim Sports Center in Clearfield, and the position that opened up was actually in the shoe department to sell athletic shoes. And so I applied for that job, and I worked in the shoe department, I think, for one day. and they found out or realized that I was an artist and could draw pretty well. And so they moved me up to the screen printing department at Gym Sports Center. And I worked there for years and years doing artwork for t-shirt designs. And that's where I learned how to do screen printing. That's where I was first exposed to embroidery machines. Now I didn't learn to run the embroidery machines then, but I learned the whole process of screen printing when I worked at Gym Sports Center for a few years. While I was at gyms, I continued to build my own sideline business of hand painted signs and vehicle graphics. I tried to go out on my own uh, shortly after Gym Sports Center, and I started a little business called Pro Art Studios because I wanted to do artwork, like fine art, painting, and drawings and stuff, along with doing the graphic arts as well. So I called it Pro Art Studios, and I had business cards made up and everything. Had a little van that I drove around. I had it all hand lettered and everything, and I was in my mid 20s by this point, and again, I had no idea how to run a business, so I wasn't doing well at all. Spent way more money than what I was bringing in, and so I had to find another job. I had to do something for full time work. But at some point during the Pro Art Studios days, uh, graphics were transitioning from hand painted signs to computer generated graphics or cut vinyl signs. And so my line of work or my way of doing things was becoming obsolete. And so some of the jobs that I got, they wanted reflective vinyl graphics. As a matter of fact, it was for CNB Bank when they had an office in Kerwinsville. They were redoing all their parking lot signs and they wanted reflective vinyl graphic signs. And I didn't have any way to do that. I did hand painted stuff. So I did a little research and I found out a local guy that owned a car dealership had vinyl cutting machines, had computer systems, had a digital printer, and all that kind of stuff. And so I was buying vinyl from him. He would cut the vinyl for me, and I would apply it to the sign panels and everything, and I was reselling them. Did that for a few months. And finally, he pulled me into his office one day and he said, "Well, hey, why don't I just hire you on and we'll start our own little sign shop and you can run the computer graphics and the vinyl cutters and all that stuff and you can go out and sell these sign jobs and you can do the work yourself and we'll be partners and you can do your thing and I can do my thing and but we'll work together." So it's his equipment, my talent, and we put a sign shop together and literally it was called The Sign Shop. And it was in business for several years. But a few years after we started, I felt like I needed to change careers a little bit. So, not a little bit, a lot. I ended up working at a group home in Maryland for a little over a year. And in the meantime, while I was gone, he hired someone else to come in and run the sign shop for him. And so, whenever I was done with that job in Maryland, that group home job, I came back to Clearfield and I had no place to work. I didn't have a job. And so through all my contacts of working in the sign industry, the sign community around Clearfield, I got to know the guys at Action Graphics. And at the time, they didn't have an internal sign shop when they hired me. They did was what they do now, print on paper, the brochures and business cards and business forms and those sorts of things printed on paper. And then they would contract out their sign work to places like the sign shop and other local sign businesses. So when I moved back from Maryland, I approached Action Graphics and I said, "Hey, why don't you hire me on? We'll get some equipment and we'll bring the sign department into Action Graphics and start a sign department here at Action Graphics." So that's what they did. And I worked there for over 10 years and got to be well known in the community through Action Graphics, and people even today still remember when I worked there. But I was the one who helped start the sign business at Action Graphics, and I'm kind of proud of that. And I was really blessed throughout my career to be able to do the things that I like to do. And seems like every time I needed an opportunity, it opened up to me. So I'm very thankful for that. So after I was at Action Graphics for quite a while, I felt the need to change careers again. And so I went and did safety training for several years. And then I got into working in the safety department of a trucking company, and did that for several years. And while I was there, again, they realized that I knew how to run a sign business and do screen printing, and eventually I learned how to run the embroidery machine, and we got a laser engraver, we got digital printers to do all of our internal sign work there at the trucking company. So I was working in the safety department and in the graphic shop at this trucking company for years. And throughout all my jobs, anytime the boss needed me to do something, even if I didn't know how to do it, I would say, yes, I can do that, or I'll do that. Or, I would always do whatever was needed of me at any job that I was at. And I think that's a big key to being successful, or being uh, having the right opportunities open up to you whenever the time is right. If you're willing to do anything, even if you may not necessarily like to do it, opportunities open up for you. And at least that's what's happened in my life. So whenever this trucking company um, lost a few big contracts, they had to downsize, they had to cut costs as much as they could, and the graphic shop and the safety department was two very costly departments in the company, and so they had to cut people. I was one of the last people to be cut, um, because I was the type of person that whatever needed done, they could count on me to do it. And my boss at the time come right out and told me that. Said the only reason that we kept you here as long as we did after we let everybody else go, because we knew that you were willing to do whatever the company needed, and we appreciate that. So they gave me a huge offer. They would give me a good deal on all the sign making equipment, help get me started running the sign shop on my own, and that's what became Biographics. And so that's how I ended up where I am today. It wasn't any one particular thing, anything like that. It was slow, progressive steps throughout my whole adult life that led me to where I am right now. And I'm still not where I feel like I'm going to be, but if that makes any sense, there's still more things that when the time is right, the opportunity will be there, and I'll take those opportunities. But that's how I got to be the owner of Biographics. I started out in junior, senior high, drawing pictures in my notebook. Didn't want to go to college. Started working at Pizza Hut. I worked a bunch of small little part-time jobs here and there, a few months at one place, a year or two at another place, back and forth, doing things that I had to do, not necessarily things that I wanted to do, but things that I had to do in order to keep moving towards the goal of being self-employed business owner doing artwork for a living. And it's taken a long time to get here. I'm in my 50s now. Maybe if I had have went to college for business management or for graphic design, maybe I would have started out in a different position, better position. But that just wasn't for me. My journey has taken a long time for me to get here, but I can say that it's been a blessing the whole way. Even though there was hard times and difficult times, and when it's all said and done, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. and I really believe that. So, all that to say, you can do it. All you need to do is step forward into the opportunities that open up to you. And I hope you're learning a little bit, or at least being a little bit entertained. Maybe I'm giving you some information that you can use, or maybe whatever I'm saying doesn't apply to you whatsoever. But either way, I'm glad you're here. Glad you're watching. I hope this helps. I hope this gives you some encouragement, and I hope that you can stop in and visit me sometime at Biographics. Thanks for watching BioTalk.